Hello and welcome in from a beautiful Clearwater Beach, Florida. I'm Randy. We're back. We're going to talk about everything that happened with the Dogs taking over SEC Media Days today. Y'all forgive me, the backdrop's a little different, but that's what you do when you take the show on the road. But this isn't about me. This is about Kirby and the Dogs and what they did today and all of my thoughts on it. Now, this is going to be just a little bit disjointed because I'm going to go through the transcript because Kirby, if you guys have been paying attention and watching any of the things that I have been doing recently, you know that I tried my best to prime this thing for you. I said, keep in mind, Kirby's going down here with a mission. He is going to come down to Tampa with a goal, and that is to set the narrative for his team here in 2026. And he did that. And that narrative, it's the same as it ever was with a little bit of a tweak. Essentially, he is in pursuit of uncommon. He wants his guys to do the things that it takes to be uncommon. Another word that you could use there is elite. Georgia has been great over the last few years, but they have not been elite. Elite was 2021 and 2022. Georgia has been very, very good. And right here is where I should put a little caveat and say 2021 and 2022 are never going to happen again. It's impossible in the current layout of college football. But Georgia has been really, really good. They're still striving for elite. And you know, I've been framing this 2026 season as the closest thing to the 2021-22 teams in terms of roster depth because of the way Kirby has put together his roster, because of the way they develop the superstructure and the players in the program and get the guys who want to be there. I think it looks a lot like 2021 and 2022. But those teams, those models, they're gone. And I think fans in general need to understand that. We're never going to see those teams again. You can have great teams, but they're not going to be built the way those teams were built. So when Kirby today was talking about being uncommon, again, the interchangeable word there is elite. That's what he is pushing his young men to do. And how is Georgia going to do that? Think back to what I was talking about last week in the primer. By doing the things that they know work. And when Kirby hit the podium today, he delivered that very message. He said, we are going to focus on the things that matter. We are going to keep working on continuity, and we are going to keep pushing development, and we are going to continue to be physical because that is a clear line of demarcation between Georgia and everybody else that they play. And I've had some interesting conversations today with other people in the media space as well as fans, and it is very, very clear to me that the difference between Georgia, regardless of how young they are, and everybody else, and I mean everybody, Texas, LSU, Alabama, all of them, the difference is that physicality. And that is what this team's going to be built on. And Kirby is stoking the fires to try to get back to that position of elite, which is what we all want. But it's not just you snap your fingers and it happens. There has to be stuff put in place to make that happen. And when Kirby stepped to the podium today, I, in my own mind, was thinking, what are we going to see? Well, he addressed it straight off the top because right in his opening remarks, really the first thing he talked about was how everybody wants to talk about all of the noise, NIL, playoff expansion, the new playing field, the changing dynamics of college football. And he said, I appreciate those questions, but really all I want to talk about is ball. I want to focus on what wins. And that's what Kirby delivered today. That was his message. Be uncommon, be elite. We are pushing for it. How? We're focusing on what matters. And right now, all that other stuff out there in college football doesn't matter. Not to Georgia, not for the pursuit of the things that they can control, which is physicality, effort, the culture that lives and breathes in Georgia right now. Because it is different and it is special. And every other team in the conference is chasing it. And Kirby just drilled those points home today. Nothing new, nothing glamorous, nothing poster worthy in terms of a phrase or one individual soundbite. But I'm going to talk about it here today. He said a few things that make this point utterly clear. to anybody who is paying attention. So let's walk through it. Again, Kirby is now the dean of the SEC coaches. He is the longest tenured head coach inside the SEC. And when he shows up to media day, it's a little bit different because everybody knows that the big dog is there. And I'm not being disrespectful to anybody. That is simply how it is. Everyone knows that he leads the pack right now. And the relationship on that point between he and Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the SEC, is a special one. They always have kind things to say about one another, but it's something different and special for these two because they have been, really closely joined over their tenure. They went through the COVID thing together. Then Kirby came out on the other side of that and won the SEC's last two national championships. They both have to make hard decisions because of the roles that they're in. And they really do, I think, have a friendship and a bond there that goes beyond just commissioner of the league and head coach inside the league. There's separation between the two, but I think that there actually is a friendship there. But that's more of a side note. Now, I mentioned that essentially straight from the beginning of the conversation today when Kirby stepped to the podium. He got right into what it was he was saying. And what do I mean? Well, I'm talking about this quote in particular. He said, I have had questions about expansion, more SEC games, portal, college, and federal legislation to navigate the NIL era we're in. Players leaving, coaches leaving. That's all people want to talk about. What we focus on in Georgia is what wins football games. And that's my passion and energy. That's what we love to do. We love to grind it out, play physical football, be explosive on offense, be explosive on defense by how you create turnovers and how you create sacks. Notice he's not running away from those alleged issues that Georgia has. He's hitting them head on right there. At the end of the day, I don't enjoy talking about all these things that are the landscape of college football. I enjoy talking about what wins and what allows our team to have the best chance. The consistency and performance is probably what I'm most proud of over the last 10 to 11 years, including this season. Consistency and performance is what Georgia has been built on. Can we repeatedly do and be successful regardless of who comes in and out of your program? That's it. That's it. I said, will he talk about the national landscape? Yes, but not really. He paid homage. He tipped his cap to that discussion. He appreciates that discussion. But what he's focused on is Georgia. And that's the same as it's ever been. Again, pushing for uncommon, be uncommon, i.e., be elite. That's what Kirby Smart was after today when he was giving his remarks. And players asked him questions, not players, the media, the assembled media there. Of course, they're going to ask their questions. But there were a few that caught my attention as they went through it, right? The one about being uncommon, he attributes that to the Oklahoma City Thunder because Georgia every year, every offseason, they take time to look at who's doing things well. And it's important to Kirby to continue to grow and change and look for new edges because the sport, the brutal truth of it is being decided by razor thin margins. So anything you can do to better your situation, that's what Kirby wants to work on. So he's talking about what can we do to get better. And they looked at the OKC Thunder. And he said the thing that they did that made them different was how they used their players. Were they willing to buy into this idea that there's something bigger than yourself? That's uncommon in today's world. And that is one of the core features of what makes Georgia, Georgia. And it applies to their approach in the transfer portal, high school recruiting, roster retention, all of it. Are you willing to put team success first? Are you willing to work while you wait? Are you willing to do all the things that you have to do so that the team can be successful, knowing that if the team is successful, you will be successful in turn? There will be a payoff down the line. Are you willing to do all of those things? And those things are uncommon in today's college football. So the team that they decided to look at, the Thunder, the world champions at the time, that was a pretty good example and a model of what it is that Georgia is trying to do day after day after day. And it's everybody being involved. It's not just the stars. Everybody has a role. Everyone has to execute it and follow through. And if you do that, you are being uncommon. And that sort of effort comes from a place that allows everyone to be successful in the end and not just one person. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Another one of the things that got my attention today was when Kirby was talking about, he was asked directly about the wide receivers. And this really did get my attention because y'all know I have said for weeks now that Georgia has the wide receivers to win here in 2026. It's just that everybody else doesn't know them. And I have zero doubt that the guys that they have in the wide receiver room are going to perform well enough to allow Georgia to compete at the level that we are used to them competing at. And Kirby got a direct question about that today. And the question went something like, one of the bigger question marks I have, the reporter put himself in there, is how would you assess your wide receiver core heading into fall camp? And Kirby Smart said, well, I'm just thankful for people like you. He said, that you guys keep questioning them because the more you question them, the more it helps me motivate them. So everybody says they don't listen to you guys, the media. The wide receivers are listening. So they'll have a new challenge issued based on your question. So this was just a microcosm. We talked about how this would absolutely be brought up. I said this, the pass rush, which was also talked about today, is going to be a topic at SEC Media Days. And Kirby had it, he attacked it head on. And he said, yeah, you keep doubting it. Go ahead. I invite that. I love that. That is a man who knows what he has in that room. And he knows that they can do everything they need to do to help Georgia win. Now, is Georgia going to roll out there and have 1,000-yard receiver this year? I doubt it. I don't think they're actually going to have anybody that's going to be close to 1,000 yards. If they do, well, Georgia's probably going to do a whole lot of winning come December, January. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Georgia's leading receiver is probably going to have somewhere between 750 yards, maybe up to 850, something like that, 900 yards. But I don't think Georgia's going to have 1,000-yard receiver, but it's not going to matter. That's going to be done by design. Because when you have all of the various weapons that Georgia has at their disposal, and they have all bought into this idea that we are going to work for the greater good, not my personal glory, then they understand going into the season, it's not about whether I catch 10 balls today. It's about whether we can go down and put the football in the end zone. I'm going to embrace my role if I don't get the ball as a blocker. I'm going to embrace my role down in the red zone, being the go-to guy who high points the football in the back of the end zone. Whatever it is, Jacoby White, I'm going to embrace my role as a slot receiver working in the middle. Whatever those roles are, these guys know going into the season that they have a role to fill. And if they all buy into it and do what they're supposed to do at the level Kirby thinks they can do it, he knows they're going to be just fine, better than just fine. He answered that question like, A, he knew it was coming, of course, and B, he wanted to make a statement about it, and he wanted to control the narrative. And with that one sentence, keep on doubting. It helps me motivate them, and they're listening. He turned it completely on its head. So you go from a topic that everybody's like, Georgia can't play. They don't have anybody at wide receiver. That's going to hurt them. He turned it completely on its head. And now you're like, man, Georgia they might have something there. So again, mastery in the moment, a master class in how to use power in a situation like this. Pardon me. I knew we were going to see it. And that was just yet another example of Kirby doing what Kirby does, where he takes one narrative, turns it on its head, and then makes a point about his program. So he addressed the national conversation. He said, we're going to focus on the things that we focus on. And oh, by the way, you think we don't have receivers? I think I might know something a little better about that, and I'm not concerned. So I thought that, again, that was a masterful job by Kirby there when he was talking about those things. Excuse me. Now, Kirby is talking about, they asked him about what does it look like across the larger part of the college football game. So the question was, you've won the last two SEC championship games, yet there's a perception that maybe Georgia's slipping, that they're on the back foot, that they aren't what they were. And how do you put into perspective your conference success measured against how people are evaluating college football? And Kirby says, I don't know that I can put that in perspective. I think you forget we lost to an SEC team within the playoffs. So it's another tribute to the fact that we won the SEC in the first place because we beat them and then won the SEC championship and turned around and lost to an SEC team that was a really good football team. And obviously one of the top four teams in the country, especially at the end of the year, the way they were playing. I don't get hung up a whole lot on the finish. I look back and say, okay, what did we do with all those games? And what did we do poorly? What did we do well? And how do we improve on what we did poorly? That's no different than what we do, what I do, Kirby Smart, in week 5, 6, or 7. So you guys have heard me say it over and over and over. That's what the game is. It's not Xbox. And you have to go out there and line up and play. And sometimes people beat you. And that's what happened with Trinidad Chambliss that night in New Orleans. Georgia was not supposed to lose that game. You have a successful fake punt. You have a defensive touchdown, right? Those kind of things go your way. You're not supposed to lose. And yet there were enough plays made by an individual player that they did. But Kirby didn't run from it. He says, we have not, he says, so I would love to see, and I don't make this an excuse, but I would love to see the flow of the season go like a football season, a week to week, maybe a bye week in there, but a continuous thing. No sport that I know shuts down for 25 to 30 days between performances. So there, he's touching on the college football calendar, which is another thing that he obviously has a lot of weight when he speaks out on it, what he wants it to look like, because there are things that can be done that are being considered moving forward around the calendar itself. And he mentions we've got some opportunities in the future to do that. I hope we can get to that point. But the format we play with now, it's great. When it was a 2-team format, I was part of it. When it was a 4-team format, I was part of it. And you can also argue the opposite, especially if it doesn't go your way. Meaning, it's the layoff's fault that we lost. It's 12 teams' fault that we lost, right? The expansion is too big already. That's why we lost. And he is saying, nope, I'm not going to make those excuses. We lost. And he finishes by saying, that's not who I am. And that's right. Because I've told you guys over and over and over, he will not make excuses. He will tell you the truth about what it is that he is trying to say. You ask a question, he will answer it. He may not answer it the way you want him to answer it, but he will answer it. And that's what we saw today. And then finally, the one that sort of was a mic drop moment for Kirby, I thought, was the question about Mike Bobo. And the question was simple: how should we in the media talk about Mike Bobo? And Kirby says, well, I don't think that's my decision. I look at things through facts and through what I see with my own two eyes. I was blessed to work with the greatest college football coach in the history of college football. I don't think you can even debate it. But I learned from him that you evaluate things from inside out. I do think football intuition is one of my strengths, and knowing that, I know that we have the right offensive coordinator. So, not backing down on his stance on Mike Bobo. He was recently extended. Kirby believes in what Mike does, and that is all that matters at the end of the day. What you guys want to write and talk about is completely up to you, Kirby. I look at the production he's had, the success he's had, the team success where he doesn't worry about who's getting this numbers or these stats or any of that. He worries about winning football games, and the way he coaches our players day to day is unmatched in this country. So again, Kirby Smart, in case you needed to hear him say it again, putting down the gauntlet about his position on his offensive coordinator, who draws a lot of people's attention and ire. And Kirby's not changing his opinion on that. Mike Bobo's not going anywhere anytime soon. So he's saying, get behind us and let's go get this thing done. So Kirby was straight fire today. He was on fire. He was delivering, dropping hammer after hammer. And I'm happy to say that if you watched my primer videos leading up to his performance today, then all of that should have just landed really comfortably because I told you what he was going to say. I told you what to watch out for. And Kirby stepped right up there and delivered the message the way he always does at SEC Media Days. So Georgia, I think you have to say, have a really good SEC Media Days. Now, I'll have more to say about what Kirby said and about what the players said in the days and weeks to come. But I wanted to come on tonight and just really give you my quick breakdown of it all. And these are not just my thoughts. Again, I had an opportunity to talk to some of the assembled media there today, and they viewed it much, much like I did. That Georgia is a physical beast. They are who they are. That's not going to change. And if you're going to beat Georgia, then you are going to have to do something special to get that done. And that's exactly what we've seen in the last instances that Georgia has not won, right? So that's just Ty Simpson had an incredible performance in Athens on third down. He was a crazy sharp in that first half, and it was enough for Alabama to hang on and get that victory in Athens last season. And then when Georgia lost to Ole Miss, again, an insane individual performance, and that wound up being the difference in the game. So if you're going to beat Georgia, it takes a certain amount of things to happen in your favor, and that's what Kirby was talking about today. Now, he also made some news while he was here. He gave us an update about the rumored injury to Dante Dowdell. He didn't get into it too seriously. He didn't specify what happened to create the injury, but bottom line is it's a serious injury. Dante is going to have a long road back, but it looks like he can get back. But there's no expectation at this point, I think, Georgia fans, that we can consider Dowdell being part of this story. So that's a tough thing for him. It's a tough thing for the football team in terms of football. But the overall perspective here is he is alive and he has a chance to recover. And apparently, this injury was, or this accident was serious enough that would make you say, let's all be thankful for that. I mean, Kirby, his exact words were that transfer running back Dante Dowdell has been in multiple hospitals now, and he is currently in Georgia. Smart said that Dowdell's injury situation is serious enough for him to not be with us now. So that really kind of tells you everything you need to know. And I want to take a second and talk about Gunner Stockton because he was obviously a representative for the Dogs here today in Tampa. And there's not, I don't want to like jump up and down on the soapbox here because that's just not the angle I want to take on this. And I'm not screaming disrespect. But for the most part, Kirby has a quarterback who's returning for his second year in Gunner Stockton. And Gunner is just simply, at best, being overlooked. And maybe that's because he plays for Georgia and a team that is considered to be good, and it don't really matter who they have. They're just going to be good, which is kind of a ridiculous thing to do, but that's what the casual fans do. So I would just want to point out that Gunner was here today. He represented himself well. I'm going to go through all of his stuff and, like I said, maybe have more to say on his individual comments or something later. But I just want to take a second and point out that you should keep in mind that when you're talking about Gunner Stockton, you're talking about someone who has now won 2 SEC championships. He beat and bested, he outplayed Trinidad Chambliss in Athens last year. 5 touchdowns. Georgia wins. And then he beat, bested, and outplayed Arch Manning in Athens last year. A Georgia win, 5 more touchdowns for Gunner Stockton. And in the Sugar Bowl, where Georgia lost, it was because of Gunner Stockton driving the Dogs down the field to put them in position to win that football game at the end. that they were even in it. It was the defense that didn't get off the field and make the play when they had the opportunity. So doubt, overlook, dismiss Gunner Stockton all you want. I just think you should do that at your own peril. Because if the young man has shown anything, he has shown that he is a winner and that Georgia is in good hands with Gunner Stockton at the helm. So I know there are people who have thoughts on Gunner, both inside and outside of Dog Nation. But if you're just being honest with yourself, just look at the numbers and remember that the players that everybody points to as being better than Gunner heading into this season, he has played them head to head and has come out victorious as often or more than he has come out on the short end of things. So, something to consider. Just wanted to make sure we put that out there. Now, this is the SEC kickoff, is what they like to call it. And as you can see here, I made my way over to Tampa today. And I want to give a big shout out at this point to the local Tampa UGA Bulldogs Alumni Association. Lindsay and the good folks over there, they extended an invitation for me to come out and join them today for a couple of hours. And I didn't know it when I accepted that invitation, but they were good. They did some magic behind the scenes, got in touch with the folks over at University of Georgia, Leland, the SID over there, and worked it out to where they were going to have an opportunity to have Kirby Smart come down and meet with the group, which I thought was great for everybody who would come out in attendance. And you can see here, Kirby came downstairs, came down the escalator, came down and met with the local Tampa Dogs down here and just had a good time. It was a quick visit. I mean, there was stuff going on, but kudos to Leland for making that happen. And, getting the opportunity for Curry to run down, see a few of the fans, sign a few autographs, shake a few hands. It was awesome. And every photo you see here, I'm just out of the photo. Like I'm just out of the frame. But I was in the group too because I went down there as a guest of the local alumni club. And first off, again, honored that y'all would have me out. So thanks for that. But it was just really cool to see them make that happen for the local alumni club, for Kirby to come down and take a moment and be with the fans. I thought that was really cool. And like I said, it was cool for me to get to run over there and be at work, but not really be at work, if you know what I mean. I thought that was a whole lot of fun too. So again, I appreciate you guys tuning in with me here live from Clearwater Beach. You ought to see this table full of gear. I did all this just so I could be here with you guys tonight. And thanks to my family for allowing me to step away for about a half hour here and come and talk to you guys. I'll have more to say about this when we get back to where I'm in my studio and everything's a little bit easier. But I did want to take the opportunity to come on here and just, offer a few thoughts to you about what I heard today from the podium. Again, people can pick Texas. I think the ballots were in due today. The media seems to have already crowned Texas again this year. We'll see. But there are a large number of folks here who understand exactly what Kirby was saying today. They got the message as if they needed to be reminded. Georgia is who Georgia is for a reason. And unless things change, things aren't going to change. And what I mean by that is you can say Texas is going to win. You can pick LSU. You can pick Alabama. But right now, here's the bottom line. Nobody fears Alabama along the offensive line or the defensive lines of scrimmage. They just don't. You look at Texas, they have been weighed and measured 3 times and come up short against Georgia. And in some of those instances, people said they had the better roster. They may have the better roster this year. But unless you can do the things that Georgia will force you to do better than Georgia can do them, none of that matters. And right now, the biggest thing is that physicality, that toughness, that attitude and culture that Kirby drove home today from the podium, that Georgia is all about. Drew Bobo, Gunner Stockton, Raylan Wilson, the embodiment of what it means to be a Georgia Bulldog football player. tough, intelligent for the team. When you've got a group of talented individuals all pulling in the same direction and believing in the same idea, it matters. And it shows up in the form of championships, which is what the Dogs have won the last 2 years in the SEC. And is something that they are going to be in contention for here again in 2026. There's a reason behind that. Kirby told us all yet again what that reason is. And he reminded us that regardless of whatever else is happening in the world of college football, in Athens, inside that building, at the University of Georgia, they're going to keep the main thing. And that is what makes Georgia different. And that is why they're going to contend for another championship this year. Just my take here from the beach, outside SEC kickoff, SEC Media Days over in Tampa. Y'all take care of yourselves, your friends, your families. Take care of each other. And as always, go Dogs!